Let's pray together, shall we? Father in heaven, we come together tonight under your creation to honor those who have gone before us. And we come with sorrow, we come with pain, but we also come with thanks. We come with thanks for the hand of protection that you place over us and how you use these men and women as part of your divine plan. Would you be with us tonight? Guide our hearts and minds. May we honor you and honor those that we name tonight. In the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight and present this proclamation on behalf of the Board of Weld County Commissioners. Proclamation reads, May 12th through 18th, 2019, National Weld County Police Officers Week. May 15th, 2019, National Peace Officers Memorial Day. May 16th, 2019, Weld County Fallen Officer Memorial Tribute Ceremony. Whereas the Congress of the United States of America has designated the week of May 12th through May 8th, 2019 to be dedicated as National Police Week, and Wednesday, May 15th, 2019 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And whereas law enforcement are the guardians of life and property, the defenders of the individual rights to be free and live under a constitution that allows for these rights to be exercised, who work tirelessly in the fight against crime and the wrongs to society. And whereas it is known that in 2018, every 54 hours, an American law enforcement officer died in the line of duty somewhere in this great country. And during this last year, 163 brave men and women lost their lives in the performance of their duties, 3 of whom were from the state of Colorado. Our community joins with other cities, towns, and counties to honor all peace officers everywhere throughout this great nation. And whereas it is known that, that the citizens of Weld County have lost 8 officers, troopers, and deputies in the line of duty. Officer Lee Whitman, Deputy Earl Butcher, Trooper Wallace McCarty, Officer Richard Ware, Officer James Longworth, Officer Richard Hart, Deputy Sam Brownlee, and Trooper Daniel Groves. And whereas the Board of Commissioners calls upon all citizens in Weld County to especially honor and show our sincere appreciation for the peace officers of this county by deed, remark, and attitude. We call upon all citizens to make every effort to express their thanks to our officers who make it possible for all of us to leave our homes and family in safety each and every day, and to return to our homes knowing that we are protected by men and women willing to sacrifice their lives if necessary to guard our loved ones, government, and way of life against all those who would violate the laws and seek to destroy our way of life. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Board of Weld County Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2019 to be Weld County Police Officers Week, and Wednesday, May 15th, 2019 to be Peace Officers Memorial Day, which will be celebrated on Thursday, May 16th, 2019 in Weld County, and is signed by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Freeman. We have a lot of support from our commissioners here in Weld County, and we're very happy that you could be here tonight. We'd like to start with a few guest speakers this afternoon, excuse me. Chief Montgomery with the Firestone Police Department.
Good evening. There is a line. It is a thin line, this line, but it is a strong one. This line has existed throughout time. In one form or another, it is there. A thin blue line. Struggling to keep the masses safe from chaos, safe from anarchy, safe even from themselves. This line gets tattered and torn, at times ripped so thin it can barely be seen. Still, this line remains. It grows stronger with every blood sacrifice. It strengthens in the tears flowing from husbands and wives, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. It asks so much of us, and we continue to give, for we are called to serve the thin blue line. This poem is dedicated in memory, in honor of those who have served and given their all. Taken from the book of short poems, my favorite, by author Peggy Montgomery. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Montgomery. Next will be Chief Packard of the Colorado State Patrol.
Good evening. Start by saying, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for being here today to help us honor so many men and women that paid the ultimate sacrifice. The support of the communities that we serve means more than we'll ever be able to adequately express. The days at times are long, the challenges are steep, but knowing that we have the support of those that we're serving means more than we can ever express, and it's truly provides a tremendous amount of strength as we make sometimes a turn down a dark road into a cloudy situation where the outcomes are unknown other than danger. To have your support means so much, and I thank you. I'd like to thank the commissioners in Weld County and Sheriff Reams and all of our partners and chiefs and the district attorney here in Weld County. It's truly a family. This is a This public safety mission is not one that we can do alone. It takes all of us shoulder to shoulder with a common goal, and again with the support of the community, the people that we're serving. And I thank you all very much. In July of 2007, the Colorado State Patrol got a little bit better. It was in July of 2007 that a cadet started in our organization by the name of Dan Groves. Dan had a desire, a passion for law enforcement, and after a career doing other things, he decided to follow that calling and sought out us and started our academy that month in July of 2007, where he started making friends right away. After a 6-month academy, he graduated and began his service in Summit County, working out of our Frisco office, working at times pretty treacherous conditions on steep grades, on long highways, lonely highways, and all the weather our state can offer. And Dan did it at remarkable levels. By now, I think you've probably heard some of the many stories of Dan's service. It knew no bounds. It doesn't matter the day, the time, the condition, no matter. If you needed help, Dan was the guy to respond and provide it. After he served in the mountains, he transferred to a position at headquarters where he helped our organization get yet again even better, serving in a capacity where he helped us implement and find new technology, and really where he started building relationships with every member of our organization. I challenge you to find a member of the Colorado State Patrol that does not have a story about how Dan deviated from his plan that day to help that member. Whether it was fixing a computer, providing cover on a call for service, lightening an otherwise stressful situation, stories of even being awoken in the middle of the night for a joke, for something to make life just a little bit better, whether it was with humor, support, or service, finding people that needed something at that moment. In November of 2016, I would offer that Weld County got a little bit better. It was in November of 2016 where Dan Groves was promoted to the rank of corporal and became a member of the community right here in Weld County. And while his time here was short, he built so many relationships and deep friendships, as evidenced by the men and women he served with, and by the people he had the opportunity to meet within the community. Dan was and continues to be a tremendous asset to the Colorado State Patrol, to the people of Weld County, and to the people across our state. Dan made our state better. Dan made our organization better. And maybe it might not be right in your face, but I assure you, Dan made your lives better and continues to do so by his legacy of service, his tradition of service that he did at such a high level. On March 13th of 2019, however, Dan's service came to a halt. You might remember that day as a day of significant weather in Colorado. Dan was working a day shift and started out, leaving from his residence, and shortly after he started his shift, he started to work his way out towards I-76, primarily out in eastern Weld County, where he was checking on motorists that had been unable to navigate the road conditions as they continued to deteriorate. Near the town of Roggen, he stopped, and I've since watched what he did, seeing a vehicle on the side of the road and actually slowing down and waving to those people so that they knew that he was coming, providing a sense of comfort before he even served, before he had the opportunity to serve. He turned around, arrived on scene, and shortly after doing so, his life was taken from us by a driver that lost control. Dan's service that moment is an example of what he did nearly every day. Stopping on his own, not because he was called there, not for any other reason, that he had the opportunity to serve. And he seized that opportunity to serve. And that day it cost him his life. And I would offer to you that had he been 5 minutes late, the person that lost control would have been a recipient of Dan's service. Because it didn't matter what you did, who you were, what you looked like, no matter. If you needed Dan's help and he was in the position to provide it, he did it. And that service is what he was performing when he lost his life in service to our state. I'd offer that his service is representative of the entire Colorado State Patrol. At this moment, troopers are patrolling our state, this county, and seizing those opportunities. But it's not just the state patrol, it's first responders, it's law enforcement professionals across this state. Men and women everywhere that are stepping out, leaving their homes, telling their loved ones goodbye, and going out knowing what's at stake, knowing the chance of what might come. But they do it because our society, our state, our country deserves that level of service. You all, members of this community, deserve to live better, to have a quality of life that provides you the opportunity to enjoy yourselves, your families, to be prosperous, to grow, to enjoy. And that ability comes because of service from people like Dan Groves. In fact, this last week I had the opportunity to be in Washington, D.C. and participate in the events that commemorate National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Week. And I saw thousands upon thousands of officers from around our country pausing for a moment to read names on a wall, to share stories of the service and the sacrifice of men and women across this country. And while this week is very much appreciated and those events are very appreciated, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we don't ever forget the service and the sacrifice made by so many. And in fact, during one of these events, I had the opportunity to listen to the former United States Attorney General and current President of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, Mr. John Ashcroft. And in his remarks 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago, Attorney General Ashcroft said this. He said, if we are to honor the fallen, the best way we can honor the fallen is to stop the falling. To honor the fallen, we must stop the falling. And how do we do that? And I think there are so many ways, but let's start first by learning the lesson from Dan Groves. Dan chose a career, chose a profession, chose an organization committed to bettering our highways primarily, to increasing the quality of life in a traffic safety setting. And I would offer to you that his mission, his vision of safety lies in all of our hearts, lies in all of our brains, our ability, our necessity to do the right thing when in control of a motor vehicle. We can honor the fallen by stopping the falling first by being responsible drivers and learn that lesson from Corporal Dan Groves. But still, speak up. When you find people that are making poor choices, whether it be behind the wheel of a car or in a community doing things they shouldn't be, please speak up. Call one of our friends. Let's do everything that we can to make sure our society is what it needs to be. Together we can do this. My commitment to you is the men and women of the Colorado State Patrol, the men and women that are represented by the chiefs and sheriffs and district attorney behind us. We will continue to serve at the highest levels. We will follow in Dan's footsteps. And we will do that because it's what is right. We will do that because what is expected of us. And we will do that because we believe from the bottom of our heart that you deserve that. So I thank you very much for your support, for your continued support. It means more than you'll ever know, and it is truly our honor and a privilege to serve you and to serve in Corporal Daniel H. Groves' footsteps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Packard. At this time, Sheriff Steve Reams, if you'd like to come up to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Normally this is a time that I would take a few moments to give a speech and retell some of the horrors that many of our deputies and officers see each and every day and the ultimate sacrifice that many of them pay. And as many of you know, this memorial that we stand on here today and that we use to honor our officers was born out of one of those tragedies. Sam Brownlee was killed on November 23rd of 2010. And prior to that date, we had always done this memorial down in the courthouse steps. Well, that was a good way to memorialize the lives of those officers that paid the ultimate sacrifice. It wasn't enough. So from Sam's tragedy, this memorial was born. And that gives us an opportunity tonight to yet break tradition once again and move from those courthouse steps to here. And tonight, instead of going on with the speech, what I'm actually going to do is break tradition by bringing up the Order of the Purple Heart. Bob and Nick, if you'd please come up. As many of you know, our deputies and officers are put into very tremendously difficult situations almost each and every day. And at times, our officers are injured in the line of duty and sometimes very close to death. We had an experience like that in the recent past, and we want to take just a brief moment to honor that deputy's service and be thankful that his name did not have to be inscribed on this wall. And I will turn the mic over to Bob so he can explain a little bit about the award they're going to give tonight.
Greetings, everyone. I and my fellow Purple Heart recipients are here to honor 2 law enforcement officers. The Purple Heart began in 1782 by General George Washington to honor enlisted men for meritorious service. It was an embroidered award in the shape of a heart made with purple thread. After a few were given out by General Washington, it wasn't used for many years after that. In 1932, Douglas MacArthur revived the medal for the purpose of honoring military members killed and wounded in combat by action of their enemy, the United States enemies. As part of our continued service, we have the First Responders Program. With this, we honor first responders injured, wounded, or killed in the line of duty. This evening, we have 2 such people. Weld County Deputy Brandon Stupka and CSP Corporal Daniel Groves.
Deputy Stupka, if you could please come forward. We'll just step up. For those of you that may not know, Deputy Stupka was involved in a very intense situation in North Greeley along with several other deputies. When the deputies arrived to that scene, they immediately faced gunfire as they tried to preserve the life of an innocent victim. Deputy Stupka received gunfire to his torso and upper leg area, which incapacitated him and caused him to be hospitalized for quite some time. Despite those injuries, Deputy Stupka returned fire and was able to find safety in that event, and ultimately the suspect was disabled and taken into custody a short time later. It's no doubt that Deputy Stupka's actions, along with the other deputies at that scene, saved an innocent victim's life, and for that he is definitely deserving of this award. Thank you, Deputy Stupka. If we could please have a couple of members of the Groves family come forward as representatives for this award.
Is that waiting for one? Okay.
We would like to thank you for being here tonight. We know the circumstances of your presence here is obviously not something that you would ever want or predict, but just know that your son and your companion paid the ultimate sacrifice to keep us all safe. And tonight, his actions and his heroic efforts are awarded through this award. Thank you. And while we have the family up on stage, we would again like to break from tradition. Unfortunately, a sad tradition is going to be created here. We want the family to have the first viewing of Corporal Groves' name that has been etched on the wall. So myself and Chief Packard are going to escort them. If you could please just remain standing and give them a brief moment of silence while we take this short break. You can all be seated, please. I'll just finish up by saying, as a person who's been through this event far too many times, it's incredibly important for families to see this kind of outpouring of support. I appreciate you very much for being here tonight, and please keep the family in your thoughts and prayers.
The next section of our ceremony will be the reading of the names. Each flag out here represents a name of a person who died in the line of service in 2018. I think when you're all looking at these flags, you'll agree with me that there are too many out here. Each name is significant, and we would like to take some time to acknowledge each and every one of those individually. At this time, I'll ask Sheriff Reams to come back up to begin the reading of the names.
Trooper Michael J. Anson, Lieutenant Paul Murphy, Lieutenant Christopher Robideau, Deputy Sheriff Daniel Alexander McCartney, Detective Basilio A. Simmons, Lieutenant Jeffrey W. Francis, Corporal William Harold Briggs, Detective Michael Robert Doty, Deputy U.S. Marshal Christopher David Hill, Corporal Eugene Cole, Police Officer Rogelio Santander Jr., Police Officer Jesus Manuel Chuy Cordova, Police Officer Charles M. Whites Jr., Detective Sally A. Thompson, Police Officer Mark J. Natale, and Deputy Sheriff Heath McDonald Gum, Adams County Sheriff's Office. End of watch, Wednesday, January 24th, 2018.
Chief Montgomery.
Police Officer Glenn Anthony Dawes Jr., Detective Michael Lee Flick, El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Colorado. Excuse me. Deputy Sheriff Stephen Edward Bellinger, Reserve Officer Jared Dwayne Condit, Police Officer David Charles Sherrod, Patrolman Chase Lee Maddock, Detective Michael Lawrence Ledick, K-9 Officer Eric Joseph Juring, Police Officer Anthony Pasquale Morelli, Commander Paul R. Bauer, Sergeant Edward Ronald Bowman, Police Officer Darren Maurice Weathers, Deputy Sheriff Kevin James Stanton, Police Officer Justin Taylor Billa, Police Officer Robert Sean Pitts, Agent Joel Alex Pantojas Fuentes.
Chief Packard.
Sergeant Mujahid Abdul Mumin Ramzadin, Sergeant Mark J. Baserman, Deputy Sheriff Alexis Thunder Eagle Locklear, Police Officer Rodney Scott Smith, Police Officer Malchus Williams II, Deputy Sheriff Jacob Matthew Pickett, Police Officer Christopher Ryan Morton, Police Officer Gregory Casillas V, Deputy Sheriff David LeSean Manning, Reserve Officer Christopher Michael Lawton, Police Officer Scotty Hamilton, Deputy Sheriff Ryan Douglas Zirkle, Police Officer Andres Laza Caraballo, Special Agent Melissa S. Morrow, Deputy Sheriff William Jackson Gentry, Jr., Police Officer Alex I. Sable.
Chief District Attorney Michael Rourke.
Detective Pedro Esponda, Jr., Lieutenant William H. Wanser III, Trooper First Class Kevin Michael Miller, Police Officer Philip Lynn Meacham, Corporal Dale Shannon Hallman, Police Officer Keith O'Neill Earl, Patrolman Kevin F. Grossley, Sergeant Sean McNamee Gannon, Sergeant Noel Ramirez Beltran, Jr., Deputy Sheriff Taylor Fletcher Lindsay, Detective Sergeant Brian Scott Cusino, Deputy Sheriff Casey Lee Shoemate, Police Officer Tamby Yagan, Master Deputy James Lester Kirk, Jr., Deputy Inspector General Richard Wayne Hale, Police Officer Lance Christian Whitaker.
Sergeant Fitch with the Tacona Police Department.
Police Officer Arian Michelle Williams, Police Officer Amy Sorrells Caprio, Trooper Samuel Newton Bollard, Chief of Detectives William Ali, Senior Special Agent Paul Scott Ragsdale, Police Officer Anthony Lawrence Christie, Special Agent in Charge David James LaValle, Police Officer William P. Farley, Sergeant Daniel Scott Baker, Trooper First Class Walter Green Jr., Collection Operations Manager Christopher Todd Bacon, Police Officer Charles G. Irvine Jr., Sergeant Charles Robert Salloway, Supervisory Special Agent Brian L. Cruz, Detective Thomas J. Barnett, Deputy Sheriff Patrick Thomas Rohrer, Police Officer Emmett Paul Morris, and Detective Harry Valentine.
Chief Klemick with the Windsor Police Department.
Deputy Sheriff Teresa Sue King, Correctional Officer Tanya V. Marin, Senior Officer Christopher James Driver, Police Officer Richard Lopez, Police Officer Matthew J. Mansney, Special Agent Timothy Allen Ensley, Chief of Police Lonnie Verdell Burton, Police Officer Gary Lee Koch, Trooper Nicholas F. Clark, Police Officer Vu X. Wynn, Deputy Jailer Randy Zoray Haddix, Police Officer Jared Kyle Friedel, Sergeant Michael Charles Chesney, Special Agent Noel Edward Ramagan, Police Officer 2 Bronson Kamena Kaulu, Correctional Officer Joseph Brian Gum.
Chief Jones with the Greeley Police Department.
Agent Cadet Emmanuel James Washington, Corrections Officer Kyle Lawrence Ing, Lieutenant John J. Brandt, Senior Corporal Earl James Jamie Givens III, Police Officer Diego Moreno, Trooper Tyler James Indenhofer, Police Officer Michael John Mikulski, Police Officer Adam Edward Jobbers Miller, Investigator Timothy Dale Cole Sr., Officer Kirk Anthony Grease, Police Officer Fadi Mukilski Shakur, Police Officer Kathleen O'Connor Funigello, Deputy Sheriff Benjamin Lamont Zerbel, Assistant Chief of Police Kurt Roy Ricks III, Deputy Sheriff Aaron Paul Roberts, and Police Officer David Alexander Tinsley.
Chief Newbanks with the Meade Police Department.
Police Officer Oscar Adrian Reyes, Corrections Officer Armando Gallegos Jr., Corporal Garrett Willis Hull, Chief of Police Francis A. McClellan Jr., Deputy Sheriff Robert Kenneth Coons III, Detective Mark S. Gatto, Deputy Sheriff Mark V. Stasiuk, Corrections Officer Joseph Michael Paris, Deputy Sheriff Mark A. Cox, Patrolman James Kevin White, Corporal Walter Zachary Moak, Sergeant Terrence Felipe Caraway, Sergeant Dennis Wallace Reichert, Federal Agent Christopher David Youngberg, Deputy Sheriff Raymond Bradley Jimerson, Corrections Officer Mark Anthony Gaspich, Police Officer Thomas Coulter, Sergeant Kent Donald Swanson.
Chief Garcia with the Milliken Police Department.
Trooper Kevin Keith Connor, Police Officer Antoine DeArvis Tony, Investigator Farah Burdette Goodwin Turner, Assistant Chief of Police Dennis Burt Vincent, Special Agent Dennis P. McCarthy, Deputy Sheriff Loren Yalit Vasquez, Corporal Travis Wells, Master Trooper Benjamin Derek Wallace, Sergeant Ronald Lee Helis, Police Officer Jared William Franks, Police Officer Toshio Hirai, Police Officer Jason Michael Seals, Police Officer Samuel Jimenez, Patrolman 2 Leanne Simpson, Police Officer David Romrell, Police Officer Hunter Anderson Edwards.
Chaplain Mark Fotelling.
Deputy Sheriff Tony Hinostroza III, Trooper Robert Emmett Nagel, Sergeant Larry Emil Moreo, Deputy U.S. Marshal Chase Sabathal White, Detective Stephen John Mullen, Sergeant Matthew Troy Moreno, Los Animas County Sheriff's Office. End of watch, Wednesday, December 12th, 2018. Police Officer Jermaine Thomas Brown, Sergeant Benton Hurley Bertram, Police Officer Edgar Isidro Flores, Police Officer Jason Barton Quick, Police Officer Eduardo Marajero, Police Officer Conrad Charles Gary, Detective Deidre Irene Megandot, Corporal Rohan Singhe, and Police Officer 2 Michael Wayne Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the lowering of the flags. Chaplain, if you would come again and close us in prayer, please.
Father in heaven, we look to you for comfort. We look to you for peace. Lord, I pray that you would be with and near every family, every department of the names that were just read. And I ask, Lord, as we go forward, that we would seek to you for that comfort and that peace and for nothing else, and that we would boldly stand behind our peace officers in whatever capacity as good citizens of this earth, of this state, but good citizens of your kingdom. We pray all this in the perfect name of Jesus Christ. Amen.